Hello. Hello, can everyone hear me? Gonna get rid of that. Hello. Sorry about the lack of streaming setup, but it all crashed right when I was gonna start with this whole experimental thing, so I was like, whatever, just pop a sign up there. It's kind of dark, but I don't know. I need to get lights that go there, I think. Because it's bright behind me and then I am in shadow. I'm just... Hello, folks. We're going to try and watch a movie. Obviously, not here on the YouTube, because YouTube hates when you do that. But I'd heard of folks, like, doing commentary on YouTube while they watch movies. And I don't know if horror commentary from me is something people would want, but I figured I'd try it. The movie itself is going to be played through my Discord, which, if you don't know, I do have one. Let me get the link so that folks can access it, and then we're going to try and see if this works. We've done some movie watches in the past with the Discord. It's been a while, but we've watched a bunch of The Ring and the Grudge movies. I think that's how I saw most of them the first time, which was super fun. We watched Suspiria, we've watched a couple different things. More recently, I think the last thing we watched was The House of Haunted Hill, I think that was the last one. Jeff was there. It was fun. I liked that movie. Hello, everybody. Let's see how this works. So, if I hop into share my... Okay, I want to share... That's right! Okay, I know how I can do this. We're gonna go to... my email where I put the movie, and if I was smart, I would have remembered to get the movie before I started the stream. I'm very intelligent. You guys can't see what I'm doing, right? Like, good. That's all on my face. Good. Hello, folks. I mean, can you stream Ringu? The Japanese version anywhere easy? It's on Tubi for free. Alright, there you go. We'll just stream it on Tubi. Thank you, Tubi, for being so helpful and useful. So now I should be able to tell it to just stream and show that on the Discord, and I should be able to look at the chat. So if I pop open the chat and pull this over here. Anybody seen this movie before? I did not see this one originally. I saw the American one first. And it's honestly still... it's in my heart. I do enjoy that film. There are things that I like better about it and things I don't. We will talk about it as we watch. I am a big fan of The Ring. I have read 4 of the 6 Ring books. Very, very big fan. Very big fan. They are so different. I actually don't have The Ring because my copy was the half size and I didn't like that it didn't match everything else, so I got rid of it and I'm going to have to get another copy. And this is my most recent one. It's the one I'm reading now. S. And then he has one more that I don't own that's in the Ring series. I haven't played the Dreamcast game, no. I really want to. And there's also a Korean movie I've not seen, which is apparently truer to the book. I'm excited to see. We're going to watch that at some point. But I figured we got to start with the first one. Gotta start with the original. As soon as I figure out how to pop out the chat, and then minimize that. Okay, so now it should let me share the screen. Wish I was technologically savvy. Okay, I don't want my voice. Yeah, okay, we don't want my voice to be coming through twice. We just want to share my screen. And we want to watch Ringu. Voice channel 2, stream, go live. Okay, so now if you go to the link to the Discord and click on voice channel 2, that is where the movie is. And we will start it in just a second. Or you can just pull up, I mean, Tubi's a free link if you just want to pull it up and you don't have a Discord or whatever. I'll put the link over in the movie thing, in the pop. Why don't I just get rid of the YouTube page? I don't need it up and whatever. Go away. YouTube page. There we go. There we go. So yeah, it's really great. It's so bad and it's so funny. It's great. Do you mean the game? Ah, man, that's exciting. I'm very excited for that. Let's see here. This all looks right. I gotta put the volume up Well, no, I don't, because you don't want to hear it twice through... Okay, so nothing, just my voice will come through YouTube. And then the movie will be either in Discord or if you're playing it by yourself through another link. I have not started it yet. Let's see. Yeah, we got some folks in the chat. Hello. And of course also in the YouTube. So I guess we can just go. Hello, folks. Where are you guys watching it? Okay, that's the link. Let me pin the message. Pin that. But also, I guess I better Discord. Can I pin Discord too? I don't know. I wish there was an easier way. I miss when there was an easy way to watch movies online with people. And chat and shit. I mean, Discord's not hard, I guess, but it's just more than it used to be. There's the Discord link if you want to watch in the Discord with us. Can I pin 2? No, I can only pin 1. All right. No service to anyone overseas. Yeah, so then if you can't get it that way, do Discord, and you'll be able to see it from my point of view. What other movies did we watch? We watched all the Grudge movies, all the Ring movies, a bunch of the, like, movies that inspired...
I can pop out.
Oh, hey, you're on the voice chat.
It works really well.
I don't know that YouTube can hear you, because... Okay.
Okay.
I can mute you if you want, or you can be in the YouTube video. Whatever people are feeling good about. No, that's fine. Discord says hi, YouTube. I was trying to see, it's in minimized mode, right? I guess I have to do it that way or else I can't see the YouTube chat. I will be buying a second monitor, I promise. I promise I will. Oh my god, this movie's so good. It's so different than the book, though. If you've never read the book, I highly recommend it. I will warn you, I'm gonna turn the mic up. The book goes hard into sexual assault. Not real sexual assault, it's hard to explain. It explores the horrors of kind of body objectification and, well, yeah, there actually is a sexual assault scene. Yes, so I take that back. Warning for sexual assault in oh, for folks in Discord, I'm also on YouTube. I'm talking to YouTube as well. It's just, this is gonna be fun. I need to minimize this. Is this still working? Yes, okay, that's still working. Hello, everyone. Oh, wow, we have a decent crowd. Okay, and it's still showing. I'm gonna pull this up over here. Yeah, the original book has different things that it explores that the movie this movie doesn't deal with. This one's far more of a straightforward ghost story, and the movie is not. It is not. The book deals with darker themes, I want to say. This movie is more about, like, ghost stories and memeology, I guess. The, like, viralology of stories and things, which is very cool and one of the major parts of the book. But the book also deals with, like, sexism and rape, assault, transphobia, because Sadako is actually intersex. I'm excited to see the Korean movie, because the Korean movie keeps that part, apparently. And this didn't. I mean, I guess it doesn't necessarily... It just doesn't address it. Like, she's just a creepy ghost. And in the book, she's not really like that. She's a little more complicated. And it's so hard to talk about without spoilers because there's so much going on in these books. It's a trilogy originally. And the trilogy, it builds up to a reveal that is, like, mind-blowing. You can't talk about it without spoiling it. Yeah. Okay. I'm actually going to pull up my live here so I can see it through here, too. Just in case anything goes wrong. Oh man, this movie is so 90s. Like, I don't know, something about the lighting and everything, it can be very telling in a movie, you know? The novel is wild. Have I seen Cairo? I have it. It is on my to-watch list. There was somebody on Discord just asked about a Ritz plug. Was there a commercial? I didn't get anything. It may be, I think I have ad blocker, that's why. For those on YouTube, we are doing this live on Discord. You can come and actually voice chat over here. I have the voice chat muted so that nobody's recorded if they don't want to be, but you can come chat on voice chat too. Here we go. Hello, folks. Hi, Mars. Man, I love how these movies always open up with, "You can't believe it, can you?" Oh, man. I like that lamp. Okay, wait. Why are you just pushing her gently on the floor? I forgot about the weird wrestling. Oh, man. You know, that is something that horror movies have lost, I think. There's something about the landline that's so much creepier than a cell phone. I don't know why. Yeah, you never want to answer it. Never when a phone rings in a horror movie, you never answer it. You never push children to the floor. I aim not to push children to the floor, actually. Hello, Priscilla. Hello. I don't watch Japanese movies, but I see a few animes, and a lot of symbolism and culture were put into them compared to American film. Well, I think it's just more obvious because, like, there's a lot of symbolism and culture, in Western stuff, too. It's just, if you're used to it, you know, if you've seen it all the time, then it won't stand out to you as much as something else. I don't know why my phone doesn't like to actually show the video. It's showing all the information I need, so that's fine, I guess. Maybe it's the sound, like, oops. Like, horror movies, the cell phone ringtone just is not frightening. Oh my god. I actually don't remember, I don't think this part was in the original book, because the book kind of dealt with Patient Zero. It wasn't a rumor yet. The original, like, quartet that recorded a movie while on vacation created the ring by mistake. Whereas this one, I think, kind of presents it as something that had already existed for a little while. Which, I mean, again, that plays into the whole virology fear thing. Oh, man. Oh, yeah, those are both good films. Us and Everything Everywhere All at Once, which I need to watch in the entirety. Miss old phones because how fun it looks to have the cord. Yeah. I remember as a kid having to go find, you know, go answer the phone downstairs and go talk in the kid. Like, there's definitely a culture around home phones that is lost. I mean, we still technically have a home phone number, but there's no phone plugged in. Uh-oh. This was something else, too. The television wasn't really associated with her, besides how the tape was created. Like, obviously, you see the tape on the TV, but the book doesn't have that iconic scene of her climbing out of the TV. Think The Ring's cooler than The Grudge. I like the books, but I honestly feel like the Grudge films are way more frightening. But a lot of that, I think, has less to do with the story and more to do with the, what do you call it, the cinematography? Whereas the story of The Ring is very interesting. So it balances out. And I love the crossover. Yes, there is a movie. It is in the Discord or to be... I'm going to just link the Discord. That should be easier, probably. Invite people. Copy. Go away. I'll pin this. I love the just sudden... that's such a goofy... Okay, yeah, now we are getting commercials. I'm going to replace pin message. That is such a goofy way to do a spooky moment. Just the black fool. This movie's definitely not quite as frightening as the Grudge films, but it's just a great concept, a great story. Yeah, I was really surprised when she never came out of the TV in the books, since even without watching the movies, everyone knows that's a thing she does. Exactly. It's so iconic, it's kind of shocking that that's not what happens. But that was definitely something that the director of the film came up with, and it is smart, and it makes sense because the curse does originate with the television and the recording, and it's just such a cool visual image and a cool way of, like, modernizing a ghost story. You know, we think of ghosts coming through walls, and it's just such a cool image. and inspired so many freaking other works of fiction. It is wild, East and West, but especially like Japanese video games. It's amazing how many times you find The Ring cited, and how many projects probably got the A-OK because of The Ring. I mentioned the Fatal Frame in that video. I mentioned how that game was heavily influenced by The Grudge and The Ring. Silent Hill was, the whole focus on like the TV and Lisa, Siren, the static effect on the Siren like viewing. The guy that did that, Isao Takahashi, took influence from the grainy psychic footage of The Ring. And The Ring itself is really heavily based on the occult boom of Japan, because not mentioned in the movie that I remember, in the book it talks about how he was a writer who was trying to get an article written about the like some kind of supernatural thing, and he hadn't been able to find one, and he meets up with an archivist at one point of the story who has all these archives of psychic events from Japanese history, and you know, there's some interesting things there. Yes, and in the novel the ghost is actually really technopathical smallpox. The anger of the ghost fuses with the smallpox virus and creates a ghost virus that gets on a videotape. Like, it's so sci-fi as well as ghost. The book is not really a ghost story to me. It is a sci-fi story. It really does not feel like a ghost story. But the movie is very obviously a ghost story, and a very good one. Movie also did not have much of a focus on cute woman. It was the male reporter. I don't remember if she replace him or if she's just the girlfriend. In the book there was a duo that research, and it's the guy and his friend from college, who's a really creepy, strange character, very hard to explain. And he has a big role in the books because he's kind of the reason why things go badly later on. But in the movie, they make the main character a woman, and I think it has a lot to do with that, like, Japanese association with ghosts and women. I don't know, it's a very strong association. Kind of surprising that the book didn't have more women in it. They kept the name of the reporter of the novel for the husband of the reporter in the film. I thought they did something there. Because she is still a reporter, and I remember her husband or her boyfriend had a big role. But they got rid of the perverted character completely. He is such a creep in the book. It's implied that maybe he assaulted someone, or maybe he didn't. Actually, he might be in the movie for a bit. The professor. Isn't the professor in the movie? But he played a bigger role in the book. What is she doing? I was watching Serial Experiments Lane the other day, and it's like a 1990s anime about the future of technology and like creepy sci-fi stuff. And it's wild how it's just really fun watching older stories that deal with futuristic technology. And this is one of those for sure, where it's like, it's so dated now, but at the time it was like, technology's getting scary. What if a videotape could kill you? And the books deal a lot with the like fear of technology. The game has a female protagonist, but it sounds different from literally everything else. I think the creepy friend appears in the other films. Okay, I've had trouble finding Spiral. I have all the other movies. I don't have that one yet. I'm excited to watch the Korean version because apparently they actually deal with the Sadako being intersex in the Korean version, which never comes up in this one. It's a whole plot point that she is able to, once she is a ghost / smallpox carrier, because she was born intersex, she is able to breed with herself and create clones. And it's a whole plot point in one of the books that is just so wild. Oh yeah, I think in the book it was a baby, not a kid. Yeah, it's wild, Lobsoul. It's kind of fantastic, because she's portrayed as, like, really gorgeous and really, like, powerful in the books. And a victim as well, because the story goes into what happened to her and why she was killed and who abused her, and she's always very sympathetic. And the curse is more like her revenge because she was killed so young and suffered so much and she wanted to live. That desire to live manifested as this spreading virus, which unfortunately can kill you. And she gets the chance to be alive again in one of the books and is like, I'll take it. You know, it's so hard to explain, like, how wild they get. But yes, transgender clones is a main plot point of the Ring books. The Korean one's funny to me. I don't know if it was rushed, but it looked like a school project. Aw, that's a shame. I'll still probably have fun watching it. There's something about the American one. I think it's 4 or 5 years after this, so it definitely feels different in terms of age as well. This has that, like, 90s aura. That one is far more 2000s. But it's a very blue film. I remember that. Just a very blue color palette that, I don't know, kind of gave it a sad feeling, I guess. But apparently, if I remember right, it was actually directed by the same director that did the Japanese one, so it's not total shit. Whereas the Grudge American movies just, I can't. Cannot even. What are you doing, kid? Being a weird kid, I guess. Hey, Katsuki! What was I... Oh, yeah, the American movie. I actually really like part of the American movie that... I guess it was obviously was made second, but by the same guy. And I wonder if there are things in that movie that he wanted to do in the original and didn't get to. Like the scene with the horse. I don't think the horse on the boat is in this version, which was shocking to me the first time I watched this because it was... You know, one of my, like, I remember that as a kid being like, oh, that's so creepy. Wasn't it implied she committed suicide? No. Okay, she was very sad, and I think it talked about her wanting to die, maybe. But no, she was attacked while she was at the hospital being treated for smallpox, and the attacker ended up killing her. Specifically throwing her down a well and locking her in because he was an asshole. What are your thoughts on the American remakes of foreign films? I mean, it varies film to film. I feel like it's hard to do these kind of ghost films, though, because they're so rooted in Japanese culture. It's not the same as, like, retelling the story of a murderer or something. Like, I'm trying to think of an example. But, like, this is just very hard to adapt. It has a Japanese sensibility that doesn't always come across. I think the American Ring movie is the closest they've ever come to actually making an adaptation that was entertaining. I remember the Shutter, I think it was Shutter, was an adaptation of a Japanese movie that was also about ghosts and cameras or something. I saw that in theaters, and it was such trash. It was not great. I really can't think of an American adaptation of a Japanese film that did it better or even good. I really can't. I am curious to see the Korean version. I'm excited to, like, see how that... I don't know. I feel like Japan's also just better at adapting foreign concepts into their media, possibly because they've been doing it for, like, 2,000 years. Like, when I watch Japanese films that deal with Western concepts, it's inevitably better than American films about Japanese concepts. We are, like, that's the thing. American culture is not designed to absorb and appreciate new ideas. It's really not. I have watched Sadako versus Kayako. It's so good, so goofy. It's one of my favorite films. It's so dumb. If I remember right, I think the dub... We watched in Discord, we watched a dub that subtitled the... I think there was a guy that was casting a spell or a blessing or something to do with the ghosts. There was a priest saying something, and if I remember right, the subtitles were like Harry Potter spells to try and get across the fact that he was, like, casting magic. I think that was that film. It was so goofy. Have I seen the original Dark Water? Yes, and the remake. The original Dark Water was better. The book is also interesting because it's not actually... It's like a short story, and they turned it into a feature film. The first Silent Hill movie is okay. Well, and I think that's the difference. It's not really adapting Japanese culture, like the Onryo or the Ghost or the Curse. It's actually, like, American culture from Japan. Like, it's a little different. So I think the Silent Hill film works as its own thing. It's obviously not, like... It's not a really good adaptation, but it gets a lot of the feeling across and the emotions across. And it's how I got into Silent Hill, so, like, I gotta appreciate it. I've seen the Japanese depictions of Britain, and they're so much better than American depictions of Britain. Yeah, honestly, I think it's just America is not... we absorb and make things American, rather than kind of, like, transforming and bringing some of the original culture. Ooh, creepy face. America is about, like, erasing and replacing with American culture. That's why you get, like, adaptations of, like, really peaceful, like, foreign films, and then they turn them into, like, high action, like, America, explosions. Yeah. Yeah, that's why the Silent Hill film worked. Crazy Christians replacing the cult aside. See, I kind of loved that, though, because there are not a lot of films where the main protagonist in the United States says, basically, I'm an atheist, and the bad guys are Christian. Like, that's very rare. And one of the reasons I really appreciate the Silent Hill film, because that's not a concept that is allowed to exist in American storytelling, especially, like, film, very much. The idea that the Christians were the bad guys and the atheist is the hero. Especially because it ends with her kind of siding with the devil, sort of, from, you know, the fact that she saves her kid by working with the demon and killing all the Christians. Like, when you say it out loud like that, that's wild. Like... it's kind of amazing that film didn't get, like, protested. Probably because it wasn't framed that way. It was framed as, this is the adaptation of a Japanese video game. And so it didn't, you know, it didn't really deal with that in the press. All the advertising had to do with that element and not what it did. Hey, budding student, welcome. Yeah, sorry, I haven't been around much. I did stream a little last week. I'm doing a lot better. I actually walked on the treadmill today, doing pretty good, but, I swear in here with YouTube strike. You can swear all you want. Yeah, friggin' YouTube. It's ridiculous. I'm doing a lot better. I'm kind of, it's funny to say this, I'm doing better and doing less YouTube, but that's because I've been focusing on getting my health better. I did my exercising today. I've been doing a lot of stretching, eating a really healthy diet, and trying to sleep good. So in the hopes that, you know, even if the next couple of months are a little slower on the work side, in the future I'll be really healthy and really ready to go. You know, I turned 30 about a month ago now, and that was, I don't know, I don't want to say it was a huge milestone, like, you know, but it was kind of a turning point where I was like, you know, this is the one time, this is the one life I got. I have got to get my health in order. Like, I have been the chronically ill person all my life, and I don't want to be that anymore. I want to be able to do things, like talk without getting out of breath, and I'm soaked in sweat right now. Thyroid problems! I don't know what that was. But I am doing better. It's just, it's a very slow progress, and I do get frustrated with it, because it's like, I want to be better now. I want to do things. I want to go places, and, you know, I have lots of big ideas and big dreams and big things I want to do, and then this much physical energy. But I just got to pace myself, and I thought movies would be a good way to do that, even though now I'm talking so much. Sometimes video games, I think, exhaust me more, because it's like, I gotta talk and think and play and do well, and I don't know, it's more work. Ah, okay, so that's how they're gonna tie it back to the kids. So the two girls were actually part, maybe, of the four that went to that that cabin. Okay. And were all their faces messed up in the picture? I don't remember that being a thing in the book. That may have been added. Photography and ghosts is, like, a huge thing in Japan for, like, 20 years. Like, there was a big ghost photography boom, and photos being creepy and, you know, messed up photos, that kind of thing. I wouldn't be surprised if they added that to the movie. Who's Tomoko? Oh, I think he's talking about the girl that died, maybe. Man, it's so weird seeing this after I've read all the books now, because it's so different. To be fair, we're watching a Japanese language film yeah, so that's why I've always liked doing these kind of streams with foreign films, because if we're going to be talking or being on the phone or something, it's harder for me to focus if I'm also hearing English, but I imagine it's also, harder for others. You don't have to quite listen to the language. Though I have been learning the language. I'm getting much better at it, I hope. Glad to hear you're doing well. Oh, thank you. Miss your analysis videos. I do. I will definitely get to doing more of those. I have ideas. I even had a couple I wanted to do over winter that just I didn't pan out. Part of the reason that they aren't happening yet is because YouTube doesn't promote them as much, and so they don't get as much traction or as much money. They're less bang for your buck. So while I'm not super healthy and I'm only able to work on so much, it's easier for me to put energy into the stuff that I know is gonna do well and, make me money while I'm at the point where I can't work every day. I really want to do one about the snowfall in Silent Hill. I find that just fascinating. There's a lot there, I think, about why there's snow. We know why there's fog. We know why there's darkness. Why snow? I have some ideas. I know arigato means thank you, nani is what, and hey means what. Yeah, I'm better at Japanese now, but that's about how I am with Chinese, because I also watch a lot of Chinese stuff, and I've learned quite a bit of, like, conversational Chinese because of that, because you hear a lot of the same, like, shama, that means, like, what, how, that's good, or yes, sort of, shi, that's yes, man, wobujida. That's the one I remember, because in dramas and stuff, you hear that all the time. It's like, I don't know, or I didn't. It's like a negative to something. Wobujida, wobujida. They accuse the guy of the murder, and he's like, no, wobujida. When Silent Hill F comes out, I'll use Japanese voices. Oh, that would be neat if they offered that. I really wish Fatal Frame did. I want to know if they have Japanese voices. I haven't looked into it, because I know a lot of, especially back then, they would sometimes just do English, but it'd be cool if Fatal Frame had Japanese voices. That would be perfect. Subs if I'm sitting down paying attention, dubs if it's background noise. Exactly. That's how I do it too, Lynn. Though, of course, a lot of the live action stuff, you don't get that option. They're doing it more now. My mom has gotten into Korean dramas, and there are quite a few on Netflix that actually have dubbing, but it's not as common, obviously, as anime. Man, the movie is a lot slower, too, I feel like. I don't know, maybe it's partially because the book kind of throws you into the deep end with a lot, like, the main character has a lot of philosophical thoughts and philosophical conversations that, you don't get when you're looking at a person. I almost wish there was, like, a narrator, because the book kind of reads that way sometimes. Or maybe that's just his writing to me. It reads something like a lecture sometimes, because he explains a lot of scientific concepts. There is an undubbed version for 2 and 3. Huh. I'll have to look into that. I need to frickin' get a capture card and another monitor so that we can do real streams again. I was sad Fatal Frame didn't work last week. She is very pretty, though. That's something. The guy in the book I don't really care about, because he's kind of portrayed as, like, I don't know, he's not a jerk, but he's just your average guy, Like, he's kind of self-centered, he has a wife and a kid, and he's kind of sort of dissatisfied with his life, but then this happens, and he's like, I gotta get through and save people that I care about. Whereas, I don't know, I think the reporter mom angle, maybe because we're not getting her inner monologue of how she's, like, bored with her life and whatever, is more sympathetic. Probably because of that. It might have been a more interesting, creepy movie if we had gotten that. I just think the book's always going to be superior for me, but that's me in general. I prefer books to anything. I go to bed every night reading books. I spend half the day reading for research. If there's a book or a movie, I will probably do the book first. I prefer reading. I don't know, it just works for me. Movies, it could take me months to sit down and watch a new movie, because I'm like, I'll have to sit and focus on it and look at it. Now there's commercials. I've been doing better lately, trying to get more, what would you call it? a wider variety of films in my... Wait a minute, how many? Oh, okay, I misread that. I thought it said there were 200 people here. No, there were 200 views. That would be wild. I've been trying to watch more, a variety of films and TVs and things. I trick myself into sitting down and working on stuff, and I'll put it on in the background, but I don't know, it's harder for me to just sit and watch a movie. Even as a kid, I couldn't do it. I watched a Christopher A. Summer theory of Silent Hill 2. Pretty interesting explanation for Pyramid Head. I have never heard of him. I'll have to look him up. I mean, books can take as much time as they want, while films have limits. I'll argue that one, because The Lord of the Rings exists. Oh god, this part's so good. This bit, of course, like, being that the book is dealing with a videotape and describes in detail what the tape looks like, the film's version of the tape is so good. Peak horror, peak weirdness. I love it. Oh man, it is neat to also kind of compare it to how it was described in the book. I wish I had my copy. I wish I did. Sada! Oh man. It's so cool. That's, I think, what pushes this movie over the top for me. The concepts it's dealing with. It doesn't really scare me. It's kind of more of a slow investigative film, but the concepts it's dealing with are just so cool. And it was so, I don't want to say ahead of its time. It was like, it was a revolution at the time. It was very different compared to what had come before. You know, technology had been changing and, you know, evolving for so long, but horror dealing with it in this way was very new. Especially the book goes way further. I mean, with the disease that turns into a ghost, that it's just wild. My friend told me a great way to remember you're welcome in Japanese, doi tashimashite, was the English phrase, don't touch my mustache. I'll never forget Ohio. I think that's like hello or good afternoon. I know it's a greeting. When I was a kid and first tried to learn Japanese, I went up to my mom and I was like, Ohio, and she just kind of looked at me and she went, North Dakota. It's like, oh my god, that's such a mom joke. Mm-hmm. What would you do if you had one leak left? I think I'd drive to the ocean. Is it Ohio good morning? Maybe that's what it was. It's a greeting of part of the day. Either afternoon or morning. I need to work on that bit. I've been working on my kanji, which is so hard. I kind of, oh, man, he's cute too. Why does this movie have such cute people? Wonder if not answering the phone affects the curse. Pretty sure it doesn't matter. 'Cause, was there a phone call? In the book, she watches the tape, or he watches the tape, and at the end it says something like, this is what you have to do to not die in 7 days, and then it cuts off, because the original kids that saw it thought it was like a gag, and they thought it'd be funny to remove the safety measure, and then of course they died. And so he watches the tape and is like, well, what's the safety measure? But they recorded over it. So I don't think there was a phone call. That might have been added in the movie, which, I mean, that's another technology is frightening. You don't know where it could be coming from. It's coming from the other side. It's a good addition. God, wow, he is cute. Is he the husband, ex-husband? Okay, in the book the phone call happens but is never explained. It feels sadder or scarier when the victims are cute and beautiful. Man, I need to see a horror movie where it's just an ugly average Joe like the rest of us. I'll feel bad for you, ugly Joe. It's cool. The ex-husband, okay. That's another difference. In the book, they were together, and the husband was the main character. The wife really didn't show up, like, at all. I think she was a home taker, and the kid was a baby, which was always kind of wild to me. Like, how does the baby count? The baby was just sitting in her lap while she watched the movie. Poor baby. Just bad luck. It's the beard on him. He looks good with a beard. Oh, yeah, the picture. That, was that in the book? Clearly I need to buy it and reread it. The picture thing wasn't in the book, was it? I actually have notes on the books somewhere. I should actually go look those up. Oh, the baby was a girl too, you're right. And of course, the film presumably ends on a not a good note, but like a they survived note. But the sequel, the second book in the series, ends that hope very quickly. I think it opens up with the second one's honestly my favorite, and the main character is a mortician, and the mortician is dealing with the weird death of a father and his wife and his baby in a car, and it's these guys. Yeah, that is one fucked up camera. It's such a moody film. Something just about the, like, it kind of emphasizes the slowness of the 7 days and how it just shows these little moments of them living and how daunting it is, that timeline. Mm. And she is so pretty, damn. That's not fair, lady. Those two would make such beautiful children. I find Japanese hauntings so interesting. The ghost doesn't go after the guilty party, just the unlucky people that were around. That's a very interesting part of Japanese horror, I think. Like, American ghosts tend to be far more like either the house you're in that's associated with what happened or the people, far more revenge based, where the Japanese is kind of like the area is tainted, which I guess ties into the Shinto beliefs of like bad things or bad feelings happening in a place or to a person can taint them and they need to be purified. So yeah, it ties back into that idea that emotions and actions can have a spiritual effect on a place or a person. And it's also kind of fascinating that the goal of the curse really isn't to kill them. It is to spread, to grow. You know, it's not revenge. It's not like The Grudge where anybody that goes there dies. You can survive. And that's what she actually wants, is to survive. Yeah, Japanese spirits tend to be more neutral. Like, there's not really a morality, but something else. Yeah, there's like it's that balance, I think. I think it changes a little story to story depending on who's telling it and what it's about, but it's definitely true that in general, it's not as heavily morally focused as Christian ghost stories are, which goes back to that, like, the Christian view of the world as having an ultimate good and ultimate evil. It's fascinating, you know. Okay, what's happening here? Clearly I haven't seen this movie in a long time and I don't remember shit. What's with the girl in the shoes? Very, very dirty shoes. He's staring so intensely at these dirty shoes. What? What? What's happening? Where did the girl go? I don't remember this. Funny, the difference of a Japanese ghost and a ghost in my area, Europe. It's fascinating. I love those differences between cultures and how they manifest. Like, even the same stories can be so different. Yeah, Japanese ghosts obey convoluted rules. I don't think that's necessarily just Japan. I think that's also kind of true of other ghosts, but I think the rules are again, they line up less with morals, so they seem more like I'm following some rules, whereas otherwise it feels like I'm following a moral pattern. I think he can see ghosts and passed it to the son. Okay, yeah, that is not in the book. I mean, he's not in the book either. Unless you count him as being the original main dude. Yeah, so she's investigating that tape. I'm trying to remember the pattern. I know eventually he was saying in the book, he goes to his professor friend for his opinion. I think he ends up investigating the archive of psychic history or supernatural history or something and some newspapers, and then they go out to the island and have that whole thing happen. Are y'all gonna watch the tape again? What happens if you watch it again? Does it reset your 7 days? What if you just watch it every day? In the film, the ex-husband was a psychic like Sadako's mom, and the reporter has visions too. Yeah, I think the only psychic in the book was Sadako, which is never really explained until you get to the third book, and it's kind of explained in a really wild way. This is so creepy. I love this bit so much. The tape is just, I think, the best part of the movie, especially the way that they explain. I don't remember if the film does. Yeah, the cameraman. They're figuring out there's no cameraman. The book goes heavy into like the psychic projections, because that was a real thing that I think was actually studied. I don't know if there was as many official studies and things as he says there were in the book, because obviously it's fiction, but there was this belief that you could project your thoughts and make images or memories onto paper, or like you could project something and have somebody else draw it, or, you know, there were different ideas of what maybe psychics could do that actually got explored as science in Japan at one point when, you know, the whole occult boom was really huge and people were kind of studying that stuff. 80s, 90s. Oh, is this the assistant girl? So there's no professor character in this one. Yeah, okay, they've fused the professor character with the ex-husband who... Okay, that's really weird. So the professor in the books is the friend of the main character, who is kind of a weird pervert, but not really. It's really hard to explain because he's a manipulator, basically. He likes to mess with people, and he's very nihilistic, very amoral. He is dating his student and talks about how he might have maybe raped someone, but he maybe only told that story to scare his friend, like as a test. It's hard to explain that whole thing. If you're interested in the book, check out the description and check out the book channel. I actually read it aloud and we discussed the book, which is part of why I thought it'd be fun to do the movies too. What do you think of Sadako in the book? I find it hard to picture her intentions or character. In the movie, she seems more straightforward. Yes, so that's on purpose. She's not a character in the books until much later. She literally is just a virus. Like, it's just, she died with smallpox and psychic powers, and those two things, like the will to live and smallpox, fused to become a new kind of virus. So that's the thing. She's not really a ghost. And nothing, like, all the deaths in the book do not involve seeing a ghost. She does not come for you. They have a heart attack. And none of them, I don't think any of the death scenes are described with seeing any kind of ghost, they all just die of weird heart attacks. It's just a virus. Like, that's what I mean by the film is a really good ghost story, but the book isn't. There's no ghost. Like, it's not even hinted at, other than she died and now this disease related to her is spreading to everyone. Yeah, she's a meme. And in the third book, she's brought back to life through weird science, weird ghost science, and she can spread... Okay, so, spoilers. Because she is intersex in the books, she can impregnate herself. And that led to her being reborn in this one girl. I don't remember why it was that specific girl. But anyway, she comes back. And the new tape, or the new... Not tape. There was a new curse spreading. Movie, that's right. Her story got written as a book, which was then turned into a movie, and she wanted the movie to, like, go to theaters and spread, and that was going to spread. And anyone that watched the movie who had a uterus would become pregnant with Sadako, and 7 days later, Sadako would be born, and the pregnant person would die. Yeah, it's wild, and that world ends. But then you find out in the next book that that's not necessarily what happened. It was all a simulation, sorta. She lives in the computer. I don't know where it goes next because that was as of the 4th book, and each book gets wilder, so who knows? Maybe the next one, she's God. I don't fucking know. Like, literally, the first 3 books build up with, oh, this is a weird ghost that's killing people with heart attacks. Oh my god, she is now assimilating humankind like some kind of strange alien, and it's literally discusses how humanity will be destroyed by Sadako Iti, a new race of humans. And then, the next book after that reveals that all of that happened in a computer simulation, and this one guy has to, like, stop it from happening in real life because of science. I don't remember that part, but he had to go in the simulation to keep the real world from being destroyed by a strange cancer. And yeah, it got really wild. And so that was that one. And then the next book that came after was like a couple short stories that don't really advance the plot past that. It kind of deals with elements of those stories. Plot twist, the whole universe itself is Sadako. I wouldn't be surprised. I've started the next one, which is S. Who the fuck knows where it's going? It opens with a guy on death row dying, but his spirit, like, projects itself into something, I think. I have a feeling he is not dead. Like, it is some of the best fiction I've ever read. Just point blank. The films really feel like their own universe. And I don't want to put them down because they are so influential to horror. I mean, most people know Sadako from the films globally. Like, it's huge, but it's very different. It is definitely less of an adaptation. It's kind of like the Silent Hill film. It feels far more like its own universe because it just deals with things so differently. At least this film. I've heard other adaptations and things do it differently and are truer, some are not. I mean, there's like 3 TV shows, there's a stage play. There's a lot. I've seen 3 of the Ring films out of like 8. I don't know. I couldn't sleep for 2 weeks after seeing her crawl out of the TV. It's a great scene. It's such a good scene. Like, even though it really changes the whole dynamic because in the book you never see her. She's not a presence. She is a dead person, basically, that spread a disease. You know, but without that scene, without that presence, like, Sadako doesn't become the sort of real world meme she became because that image is frozen in everybody's heads. It's fascinating comparing it with what the book was, considering his whole book explored the idea that things are going to go viral. Like, way before the internet, like, this was what? He wrote it in, like, 1993. Way before the internet was, like, the early 2000s when the internet really exploded. I mean, he got memes and information and the way the information was spreading and changing things. Like, he got all of that on point. So, way ahead of everybody. And so creatively explores all these very weird sci-fi elements and things. I like the movies, and I think they do a good job of telling a good ghost story, but they just, you can't put them next to the books. It's so different. There is no television scene. Sadako doesn't officially really show up at all until the 3rd book? No. 2nd book. I'm pretty sure. No, 3rd book. Which one does she get pregnant with herself? For the 1st book, it's easy to describe her as a corpse that wasn't buried properly and keeps spreading the virus. Basically, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think this is the one... Yes, this is the one where she comes back. She's born from a corpse, and she shows up, like, at the very end of the book and explains how she wants to spread her new life. And it's a really creepy twist ending because the guy that's the main character who's been trying to solve this whole mystery the whole time lets it happen for reasons that are pretty understandable. I mean, not forget, he lets the human race be wiped out, but it's a human reason why he does it. It's fast. Like, the last chapter is awful and amazing. because he gets what he wanted and the world burned for it. And then, of course, it's revealed in the next one that was all a computer, but it's still an existing world. I think they created it in a science experiment in, like, Nevada or something. It gets into, like, America. It's so wild. I need to reread them. She's a bioweapon, basically. But only in the fantasy world, the Matrix world. That was created by some scientists in a experiment, and then it was abandoned, and then some reason years later, I think it was a guy brought his child out of the machine because he wanted a kid, or his kid died or something, and so the child who was born of the machine or something was spreading a cancer nobody could beat. It had to do with beating cancer, and the kid had to go back in the machine for cancer to not murder the world the way that Sadako murdered the world. I really need to reread these books. They're very good. They're all available in English now. He's written 6 Ring books as of 2013. I don't think he's going to go back. I think he did write something new recently, but I don't remember what it was. He has a collection called Dark Water that has horror stories. So good. So good. And then he has 2 books, I think, that aren't really horror, but are well-known in Japan, and I've been meaning to get those, but I haven't found them yet. He knows what's up. If I could stop Sadako, I wouldn't either. Never get in the way of a girl boss. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a vengeful spirit who was murdered by her parents. In the movie, I think, yes, that's right. The movie changed it to her parents. They weren't great in the book. They were kind of like negligent / I think her mom might have been abusive if I remember right, but they weren't involved in her death. Sounds like, yeah, we should. We read The Ring. I should get around to reading the other ones with y'all. I have them all here, and they're very good, and it'd be fun to discuss them. We'll have to do that. But yeah, in the book, she is killed by a doctor at the hospital she's at, being treated for smallpox because men suck. That's one of the plot points of this book, is men suck. It really does deal a lot with, like, Japanese societal culture, like the kind of cracks. I mean, this, again, written in the early 90s, it talks about AIDS and STDs and the way that those things can make you pariah in society. It talks about being intersex and how gender nonconformity can make you a pariah in society. Like, it deals with lots of stuff. We have a kitty cat. I don't know if you guys can still see him, but Gandalf is here. It's fascinating. It's also a very good, like, picture of Japan in the 90s, because the main character, like, he just goes off on these, like, mental tangents about Japanese society and things. It's very fascinating. And they do investigate what happened to her and why, and it corresponds with a lot of, like, Japanese history from that time. What, Sadako in Scary Movie 3? What's her backstory? I do not remember. I just remember the scene where that other girl beats her up when she comes out of the TV. That was so funny. That movie was a classic. And I think, was that the same one where the sheriff's hat kept getting bigger in every scene? I cried laughing every time for that stupid scene. Yeah, the movie jumps over quite a bit, but I understand why, because there's a lot of just sitting and talking in the book. There's, like, an entire part where they're just in Tokyo, going to different places and talking to each other about culture, history. Like, the professor goes off on all kinds of things, and morality and philosophy. It's fascinating stuff. Half the time I think he invented the character the professor just so he could go on tangents about things that he wanted to talk about. It's really good. Trying to think of what other differences there are. I mean, obviously, we're already at the island, and we're like, what? Okay, we're halfway. They don't get to the island until, like, the last third of the book. Most of the exploration is elsewhere, if I remember right. And, of course, the kid seeing them film by accident was not part of it, because it was a baby, and the baby was just in the mom's lap when the mom played it, which, what? I've heard it argue the Japanese movie has better build-up, while the American one has better payoff. Thoughts? I haven't seen the American one recently enough to say so. I do remember feeling like the Japanese film kind of ended a bit less impactful, What I remember about the American film that really stood out to me that I was surprised wasn't in this one. I watched that one first when I saw that one when I was like 10, 12, like I was a young kid, and then I saw this like 2 years ago. um, the Okay, yeah, I don't remember the suicide bit with the newspaper. I do remember the mom was a psychic that people said was a fraud and that like messed with her. But I thought she survived. I really do need to reread it. Um, oh, bye, Abigail. Thanks for joining us. And thank you. Have a good one. Um, in the book, I think goodness, what was I talking about? Difference. Oh, the film. The horse scene. I mentioned that earlier. I remember there being a scene where when they were going to the island and they were on a boat, a horse freaked out and jumped off, and like I just remember that scene freaking me out as a kid. Like, something about it. The horse committing a horse committing suicide to get off the boat. Like it was great. Addicted to horror back when they were in diaper. Yeah, I mean, I saw some pretty dark stuff when I was younger. I don't know why I was allowed to watch The Ring. I probably sought it out myself. At that point, by the time I was in late middle school, high school, I was really addicted to it and was seeking it out. Silent Hill, The Ring. Trying to remember what other stuff I watched back, like what was available back then. I never saw the American Grudge films until much later, and they were bad. In the credits, they made sure to capitalize no animals were harmed. I wonder how they did that scene. That's really curious. The Ring scared the crap out of me. I watched it on VHS in a dark attic one night, and then the movie turns out to be about a killer VHS tape. Well, that definitely dates me, because I watched it on DVD. But yeah, that is so good. Part of the reason I think this movie works so well, in spite of being kind of pretty slow paced, being so different from the revolutionary book, it's the thing that it says, like, you watch the tape and you die. Here, watch this tape about the tape that kills you. Like, it just, psychologically, it's there. So good. Pulse is great. Cure also. I need to look up. I have a big archive of Japanese films, and not just all films I have. And pull them up. I can never remember off the top of the head what I've seen when people ask me. Is that her dad? Shizuko? Oh, that's a granddad, because Shizuko was the mom of Sadako, I think. I still gotta say, the Grudge films are so much creepier. The cinematography, it's just so well done. The later ones get messy, but that's inevitable whenever you go long form. Eventually, it's gonna get watered down. Watch Pet Sematary way too young. Hello, Willis. I'm doing well. Hopefully you are too. I'm trying to think if I saw Stephen King films back then. I mean, I've seen The Shining. I read Carrie. I don't think I saw the movie. Nowadays, I don't know. I tried rereading some Stephen King and some other stuff and I don't know. I always tend to bounce off him. Some of his shorter stories were alright, but it doesn't appeal to me. It's not weird enough. It's not Clive Barker. I always go back to Clive Barker. So good. I've never once read one of his stories and been bored by it. Hey, I'm obsessed with your videos. Recently found your channel. Let me tell you, I watch your videos on repeat. You make high quality content. Thank you. Aw, thank you. I'm glad folks enjoy it. Netflix Ju-On was kind of disturbing to watch. I haven't watched that version. I heard that it kind of messed up the lore, and I was like, eh. There are a couple Ju-On films direct to VHS, Ju-On the Curse 1 and 2. They are very good. I have them. They are my favorite. They're the best Ju-On films. They're so good. Oh god, too much weird. Oh yeah. Stephen King is... I don't know. There's something about him that's weird in a bad way. Like, I want my horror to be weird, but not in the way that makes me think the writer is a weird... Like, I don't know. Something about him that always kind of turned me off. Whereas Clive Barker, who, if you don't know, is the guy behind Hellraiser and all kinds of, amazing horror. So good. Clive Barker just, it's always very weird. And he is a gay man, so he writes about a lot more subcultures because he has experience with them. That's where Hellraiser came from, was like the BDSM culture. I just find all his books. He's written like 20, 30 books. I've read most of them, and they're all fantastic. I know a few authors who have that hit rate, where I've read a lot of their books and felt like every time I was amazed. Suzuki Koji is another, the guy behind The Ring, is another one where every time I read it, I'm like, mind blown. Hideyuki Kikuchi is mostly there. The thing against him is he's written so many books. Inevitably, he had to write one that was slightly dull, but still entertaining, all of them. He's written like 300 books. I think I now officially own every one that he's had published in English. I really want to make a video about him one day, but I don't know how a book video about Japan would do on this channel. I hope it would do well. One day I will. Heard the new remake of Hellraiser is better. Yeah, I've heard good things about the newer Hellraiser stuff. Watch Hellraiser 1 and 2, and then stop. I've read those books too. They're quite good. They're not my favorite of his stuff. He writes a lot of really good kind of like a person who is kind of melancholy because of where they're stuck at in their life, and then some weird magic sex shit happens to them, and they realize that life is all like it's hard to explain. Like, they have the awakening of their mind, and they become a full human from the weird sex magic shit. He finds a way to talk about boobs all the time. I've only read a couple of his things. I feel like his work does better in film. I don't know. Oh man, House of Leaves has been on my list for a while. Man, I forgot how slow parts of this film really are. Like, all of this is not, like, they're trying to walk over a bunch of very slow kind of research that the main characters did in the book, where they kind of figured out, okay, these people were here, and they made him a psychic also to make this so freaking easy to explain. Nope, none of this in the book. They researched and it was more of a mystery, whereas this feels kind of less like a mystery and more like they just kind of dropped it. And she's in here, she sees it now too. That's so weird. I don't like that. Now that I've read the book, it's obviously just an easy way for them to drop a bunch of lore. It would have been so much better to, like, they could have gone to, like, the researcher guide like they did in the book and sat down and had a conversation and could have had flashbacks. Like, this doesn't work for me now that I've read the book. I don't like it. I mean, it's the same backstory. It's just told in a different way. I used to digest Stephen King on a weekly basis. I wish I had passion to read like that again. Oh, yeah, well, give yourself some time. It can come and go. I find, like, I'll have times where I read a ton of books, and then I go 2 months without touching one, you know? Same with TV, but more so, because I'm bad at sitting still for a long... I don't know, I can do it with books, but not TV. I used to read Ito, and I realized I'm too much of a scaredy cat to read horror manga. So good, though. Ito, another one that I don't think... There was one story where I was disappointed, because the twist kind of turned out to be the scary guy... The scary person was a trans woman, not like a drag queen, and that was scary. But then he did a little more with it, and I was like, okay, but like... I don't know, that's just such a... For a guy that is so revolutionary and frightening in every one of his stories, for the twist to be, isn't it scary, the dude's in a dress? Like, that's so dull. But granted, I think he wrote that story quite a while ago, I hope. And been a while and grown more. But that's the only one I can remember being like, eh. Everything else is, like, amazing. I love it. Some of them have brought me to tears. This is so dumb. Why does he just... Like, it's a movie dealing with psychics, but really... And she's got her hair in front of her face already! God, that's so goofy. Oh, okay, she's supposed to be the corpse already. That's so weird. I don't like this bit. This is weird. Now they're all just having a nap on the beach. I think they could have explained this better. I get why they did it, but didn't work for me. It would have been far more interesting. And I think that's part of what made the American version work for me. I remember the American one feeling like a mystery she was solving. And as a kid being like, oh, what's happening? Why is it happening? This is so cool. This one, it's a more beautiful, well, I won't say more beautiful. I gotta rewatch the other one. But it's a very pretty film. And this is a commercial. This very pretty commercial. Trying to think of other horror people I like. Kazuo Umezu. I've read a couple of his things. I found he has a movie. They had adapted, which of course they adapted one of his horror stories into an anime. He's another very big horror name over in Japan, but for some reason, I think it's got to be maybe the timing of when Ito got big versus the others. I think Umezu and Hideshi Hino, like, they tended to be bigger, I think, like, earlier 70s, 80s. And then I think Ito really got his start in, like, I think Ito coincided more with the time when Americans were starting to import manga, and so his stuff was coming out and being imported, and Hino and Umezu really weren't. I think there's, like, one Hino Hideshi manga translated into English. One of a bajillion. Whereas Ito, especially now that they've really started pushing out more of his stuff, he has like 30. It's a shame that we don't have more. I think we're finally getting to see more of the classic horror be translated into English, but there's so much of it. Devilman, we do have some of the Devilman series, but like a lot of other stuff is not. God, this is so wildly different. They just drop it on you suddenly. It's very different. The book paced it a lot better. I don't know. I might have to think on it, how I feel about it, but I don't like how they changed that information drop. I just feel like they could have changed that bit. I know why they did it. But the book made it so much more interesting. They piece it together. You know, they go to the archive and they find info on the, I think it was like, this guy had archives on all these people that were reported to be psychic that the scientists had researched over the course of like 2 decades during the time when Japan's occult boom was really big and there was interest in studying it scientifically. And so they spent like a week, well, no, not a week, like 2 days of their week time going through the archive and looking for her name to try and, or a name, I think it was. Because they knew when she would have died and I think where she was from. They had pieces of her identity and they were trying to connect it to one of the children or adults who had been researched in the study, since they knew it had to do with psychic photography. And they end up finding her name through that. And then they trace the name back to the island. And they go to the island and they find out about her family there. I think her mom and dad are both gone. And then they find out she went to Tokyo for a little while to be in a theater troupe. From there, I think, is where they trace her to a hospital where she had contracted smallpox. And that's where her trail ended. They find out that the hospital had been torn down and a resort had been built over it, and her body was still on the hospital grounds that was now a resort. And of course, it was underneath the house where the kids watched that tape and she sent that message. So that's how it all connected back together. And it just built up so interestingly, far more, I think, than this did. I remember the American one feeling like it did a good job there with the building up of the mystery. I just don't think it can feel quite as scary because it's not set in Japan. Like, it doesn't feel authentic. That, like, her name was like Shirley or something. Like, oh no, it's Shirley. The live action of Taito Monogatari was honestly terrible. Man, I've been wanting to get into that. I've heard it's so good. I think I have the anime. Hopefully it's not bad, because the manga's never been. Not manga. It was a light novel series. It's never been translated either. God, for the fact, in spite of the fact that we've been importing Japanese media for so long now, there's still so much we've never touched. Man. Who are you? Are you the dad? I thought in the book they might be dead. I don't know. Boku no Excuse me. I don't know that one. Doomed Megalopolis is okay, but only covers part of the book. Okay. Yeah, I was interested in trying it solely because, like, I've wanted to know more about the book series for a while, and that's the only version of it I've found. My requirement before consuming media is it gay? Then we go from there. That's half my, like, if it's spooky and horror, or if it's gay, I tend to, like, and if it's both, you know, that tends to be my thing. That's a lot of how I feel about Blood Curse. Dang, I need to get back to Siren. I really, really do. And he's just more dropping the info just that he got from... That's so cheating. It's so cheating. I'm psychic, so I just know all this stuff now. That's alright. Once Sadako shows up, it's pretty badass, so that's good. No. And it's kind of, like, I like the kind of connection of divorced parents trying to stop the curse to save their kid and themselves. Like, that pathos is definitely good and wasn't there in the book, because it was... In the book, you care less about the protagonist and his friend, because the friend is kind of an asshole, and the protagonist is kind of like this... He's having a midlife crisis, and he's far less interesting, I think, than this. But the writing and the concepts and the scares, the twists and turns of the book hold it together far more than the characters. Not the characters aren't bad, they're just not as, like, sympathetic, I guess. Which I think works better in a book than in a film for me. It's easy to enjoy assholes in books, whereas in film, it just always makes me want to punch them in the face. Something about not human language? Eh? Trying to remember what they did on the boat. Can't wait for Silent Hill F. Yes, I'm very excited. I need to play that guy's games. I did buy the visual novels that the artist was involved in. The artist from F, I think from F? From one of the Silent Hill game projects. Deathmark and the other one. NG? Haven't played them yet. I started, what's that one? I started another visual novel, but I stopped playing my Switch because I hacked my old DS and managed to put a bunch of old games on it, and now I've been playing Advance Wars. I'm very bad at Advance Wars. My wars are not very advanced. They're very bad. Ryukishi made games already? Isn't he the guy behind the Himeneko something crying things? Higurashi, yeah, I think they're visual novels or something, which have been on my radar for a while. There's so many of them that I have been intimidated, and lately I've just not had the energy. I don't know what it is, I haven't wanted to play games much, other than, like, you know, little Advance Wars, which is just like, it's like Fire Emblem with, like, tanks and airplanes, and I'm bad at it. Any concern about Silent Hill's change in setting to Japan? No. Like, when you change Sadako and the ring from Japan to America, there is very much a very Japanese aesthetic and Japanese sensibility that doesn't transfer well unless you change a lot of things. And by doing that, well, it's not Sadako anymore, is it? So it doesn't transfer as well. But when it comes to Silent Hill is not so much tied to one culture. I know a lot of people feel like that, oh, well, it's got to be made by the Japanese, oh, it's got to be set in America, because that's what they recognize. But what I think people should realize is it's honestly, it's about the blend of cultures. Blending cultures is what makes it so strange. You get this weirdness from it. I feel it in Silent Hill Downpour when you have, like, the European group and the American group and the Japanese group all working together. When you have Origins with the British group and the American group and the Japanese group all working together. Like, when you blend those things together, you can create this really weird experience that I think really works very well. And because the concept is so open, it's a town where shit happens, you can move that anywhere. You can tell a story about a town where shit happens anywhere. especially because Silent Hill never explains why it exists. It's not on cursed burial ground. Like, it just is. And so you can just have one in Japan and say, well, it just is. It just is this. I think it'll be curious to see if they do try to connect the two and say, like, they're connected. Because technically the Japanese one is set before the events of Silent Hill 1. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I think if there's going to be a connection, it's gonna be the flowers. The fact that the first game, the drugs deal so heavily with the White Claudia and the flower being connected to their spiritual power, and then that film that we saw being so connected to flowers, and I think that would be the connection. I don't know if it'll deal as much with Japanese history as I theorized in my video, but I think it'd be fascinating if it did. The fact that that flower was brought to America by the fucking black ships, like, that's a huge part of Japanese history. And it would be fascinating to see explored. But who knows if it will be. I mean, I have no predictions about the new Silent Hills. I'm just excited to see more things. And the fact that people are actually talking about and writing about Silent Hill is very cool. I'm excited to see what happens. Oh, so now we're going to see why she fell in the well. Oh, geez. Yeah, that's also, like... It's so weird and random the way they portray this here. Like, she was just looking at a well. In the book, she was, so warning, she was sexually assaulted by a doctor while she was a patient at the hospital being treated for the smallpox. So she was quarantined. She could not leave this hospital, and this doctor cornered her and assaulted her. And during the assault, realized she was intersex and freaked out. And I think he smacked her over the head or like knocked her out, and brought her to the well to get rid of her. And she was still alive. Like, she woke up in the well. It's a fucked scene. It's so sad and horrible. But, like, it has a logic to it that this scene doesn't. Like, I just woke up and I like to look in wells. And I think it was her dad that threw her in the movie, which I don't think is as compelling. It's just very old, abusive father, abusive mother. This part is good, though. When he climbs down and he gets the body is, ooh, messy. In the book, there's a really creepy scene where, when they're putting the mystery together, where they meet the guy that assaulted her. Like, they track down, trying to figure out what happened to her, they search for the doctor that worked at the hospital and took care of her, and they find him as an old man in a wheelchair, and I think, if I remember right, he, like, knows why they're, like, he's fucked in the head. Either because it's haunted him what he did, or because she's haunted him for what he did. I don't think it was her, but I can't remember. I really need to reread it. I just remember loving that scene where he, like, tells them what he did, and he's just so clearly fucked and messed up. And, yeah, they change it in Ringu Zero, too. Zero is a prequel based on a short story that he wrote, which I honestly really like. It doesn't match well with this film, and it also really doesn't match well with the books, but it's a good movie. I had fun with it, and it really made Sadako even more sympathetic because she's the main character of it. The book version of Birthday makes Sadako out to be more of an active participant. Like, the movie makes it seem like she's very much a victim and never meant for any of this to happen, whereas the book kind of implies that, like, she was using her powers for personal gain, I guess, maybe, if I remember right. It never implies that what happened to her was deserved, just that she was creepy, basically. That people were afraid of her for good reason. If I remember correctly. And she did have a boyfriend. I was very sad about her and her boyfriend. God, this scene is so gross and creepy. Just pouring out all the water that's been filled with a dead body for years and finding, like, bits of her corpse on the walls. So fucked. But it matches, too, with, like, the Shinto beliefs in purifying land and fixing the problem is supposed to be the solution. And I love that the book and the film twists that on its head and says that didn't solve it. Nothing is solved. Nothing is fixed. You can't just cure this. It's such a twist. And I imagine for a Japanese audience might have been a very big surprise for the kind of Shinto tradition of the theoretically, like, the purification, you know, this, in American terms, maybe proper burial, because, you know, the idea of ghosts will haunt you if they don't get a proper burial. The fact that that doesn't work is so creepy. I had a hard time understanding Rasen. That's the one that's based on Spiral, which is the one where the mortician is trying to solve the murders that are related to Sadako. It's a wild book, and it takes some sci-fi turns that the first one didn't. I don't know if the movie is true to it, but it's fascinating. Will I ever review Berserk? I don't know. I've still not seen it or read it. It has been on my radar, and a lot of people have pointed it out to me, and I've been meaning, it's on my list. I actually started, when I was very sick last week, I started an anime I thought was Berserk, but it was Bastard, which is another anime that starts with a B. Very different, not the same. But I don't know. I don't know if manga, I won't say it won't be. I think if I did manga on this channel, it would be horror. Just because I don't have the, like, background in action anime and manga to, like, talk about it, but I've read enough horror manga and I've read enough of its history where I have something I could say that would be, like, interesting and meaningful, you know? When for me, the way that I approach this stuff, I want to understand the, like, the genre and the world around the medium so that I have a better understanding of what the story is trying to do. Like, you understand The Ring better when you know about the other ghost stories that came before it and, you know, what it was, the things it was drawing on. Like, the twist ending isn't a twist if you don't realize how a lot of these other ghost stories will, you know, be solved by purifying and that kind of thing. So I think horror would probably be what I would do. F is secretly the spiritual successful to Siren. Sort of, yeah. Like, it has some things in common. It'll be interesting to see how similar it is, because Siren was pretty huge in Japan. I wouldn't be surprised if they drew some inspiration from it. And how fascinating would that be to see, like, the Ouroboros go full circle where Toyama left Silent Hill and made Siren, and now the more recent Silent Hill is going to borrow from Siren? That would be cool. But, we'll see. Honestly, it's just, there's still so little, like, they've come out with some new info on Silent Hill, too. But the other ones, we've really not heard anything else about. Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about Berserk. Thank you, Nilitus. That's very kind of you. I'm glad folks seem to be enjoying it. Like, we've had a steady audience this whole time, which is cool, because I didn't know how entertaining me talking at a camera would be. Next time I will set it up a little differently. I am gonna get another monitor. I have to go out tomorrow, so maybe I should do that then. And, I can maybe have it set up differently. I wonder how many people are watching over in Discord. Oh, wow. I think this is the most people we've ever had in Discord chat. Cool. Hello. And some new folks. And nice. Yeah, this is probably my favorite scene of this movie, the well bit, because wells are so creepy anyway. Being underground, so creepy. The water is gross, dead body water. Like, everything about this bit is disgusting and horrifying and upsetting. Like, this is the best part of the film. I don't remember if the American one had an equivalent of this. I feel like if it did, I would have remembered. I don't think it did. This part is just fantastic. Aw, trying to watch your nephew stream on Twitch? Well, link it! You gotta get that link out there. Get him blow up. I need to be better at Twitch. There are some people that I like watching, but I always end up watching the VODs on YouTube, because I don't, like, Twitch always makes you log in and then it says something like, you know, it doesn't let me remember. YouTube will let me log in and stay logged in. Twitch won't. And I never remember my password, so I never use Twitch. Silent Hills had no LGBTQ. Well, that's debatable. I think people don't often think about the fact that characters very rarely approach the television screen and say, hello, I am a heterosexual. Like, unless a character does that, they are theoretically any sexuality. But most audiences tend to assume the default is heterosexual. So obviously everyone in Silent Hill is heterosexual. Are they? None of them have said that to me. I didn't see that cutscene. Oh god, that part's so creepy. But it's not really a theme that I think is necessary for Silent Hill, if only because the traumas that Silent Hill explores have been much larger. I don't think Silent Hill is equipped to explore the traumas of, oh, the skin's just sloughing off. That's so gross. Like, LGBT, it would take actual queers to work on it. And I don't know, I don't think you'd get that in a corporate environment. Silent Hill can do its horror and do its cultural stuff. God, she's hugging the skeleton. It's so creepy. I love it. Oh, man. I think it's a case of the people writing the stories are writing from a personal place, because that's where you start when you write stories and horror, and they were all straight dudes, so that's what you were gonna get, you know? And that's inevitable. It's not really... That's more of a comment on the state of the industry and the world, but I think it's changing. Like, fucking Square Enix has a LGBT mascot now. It's just wild, and it's designed by the same guy that designed Kuja, and I really hope that means that the guy that designed Kuja is gay. I want that to mean that. Yeah, you're right, Lobsel. Signalis is queer Silent Hill. And isn't that's a smaller team indie game? Like, that's how you're gonna get queer stories. Because they just aren't, you know, you're not gonna get the presence of queer people you would need on the team to actually make, like, a queer horror. You'd need, like, the director, or, like, you know, you'd need, like, a Clyde Barker on the team. And it's just not common enough in the industry. Maybe one day in a mainstream thing, but right now it's all over the indie scene, and I want to support those anyway. God, that whole bit is the best part of this movie. Though, again, the scene where we realize that he's fucked and that's also fantastic. This whole half of the film is way better than the first half. Main thing I want in a Silent Hill game is a new Otherworld transition. Yeah, I think Silent Hill is far too attached to the things, the symbols of the past, the rust and the you know, the things that worked for the first game and which they stuck with because they kind of became emblematic. Like, the fog is even one. But Ito Masahiro actually talks on Twitter about how he'd love to do horror that wasn't rust and blood and, like, do something new. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see that opinion maybe being prevalent among, you know, if you worked in horror long enough, that probably has been, you've probably done enough rust and blood. It'll be neat to see F. I like, F appeals to me the most because it is so different. I mean, the closest we can think of is that Midsummer movie, and even that is more, it's not quite the same as, like, plants growing out of your skin. An idea that I claim, because I first published my live stream talking about my book, Where Plants Grow Out of People, like 2 years ago, so pay up, Konami! Yes, Signalis jumped to, like, the top of the I will play this one game queue. I just don't have the money for video games right now because I bought too many video games over Christmas, and I told myself, well, I gotta play these before I buy anything else. Oh, man. It was literally like 2 people. Wow. That's wild. Speaking of Clive Barker, what do you think of Hellraiser or Candyman? Not actually seen Candyman yet. I have the movie. I love Hellraiser. Excuse me, the first 2. And I read one of the books. There's a couple of Hellraiser books. And I've read a lot of his other books. Like, probably all of his other books. They're so good, so inexplicable. Like, they're really hard to explain. It's not an easy explanation like a ghost climbed out of a well and started killing people. It's like, this man dreamed of a wolf, and the wolf came out of a bookshelf and told him to have sex with a dinosaur. And from the dinosaur came... No, actually, you know what? I can explain. I remember one opening that just blew my fucking mind. It was so insane. This guy is trying to create the elixir of life. And so he's studying this stuff and trying to create the elixir of life, and he's working with a friend of his, I think, who realizes that he solved it, but that, like, he's not going to use it well. It's going to go very badly. and he wants to keep it from him. They end up both using the elixir and becoming spirits, which are battling in the spirit world. I think they fell down a ravine or something, and they end up coming back out through a underground river, and they're still fighting as spirits. And in the underground river, they come up and they find 4 young teenage girls who are swimming and splashing outside of like Hollywood. A lot of his stories have to do with Los Angeles and Hollywood. They impregnate the women, at least 2 of them. They were all like assaulted by spirits, but in this story, it's like ecstasy, like God ecstasy. Like they had sex with an angel, and one of them loved it. One of them kind of lost her mind. One of them had a baby, and the other one I think moved away. So one of the girls has a daughter, and one of the girls has a son, and the son is related to the bad guy, and the daughter's related to the good guy. And they created these children because they wanted the children to be born and fight for them, to fight in the war of what's going to happen to the elixir of life or something. They end up meeting and being drawn to each other when they're teenagers, and the guy comes to Hollywood to meet him, and they fall in love instantly and start having like romance. But the girl's brother from another mother, like she had a brother, is obsessed with her and wants to date her. And so he is seduced by the bad guy into becoming, what was his name? Johnny Boy? He becomes a guy that can like summon ghosts, and he uses his ghost army to try and get his sister back from the other child of the psychic sex, god sex in the ocean. And they are fighting, the trying to fight her god spirit dad, who comes and blows up half the town, I think. There's a huge earthquake in Los Angeles, and then the 2 kids end up falling into the God Sea, which is like the source of all stories and life and magic and energy. And eventually the girl starts losing her mind or something, and I think she melts. Oh man, the stories are wild. They are wild. They are all like that. I love like that's such a weird way to end that spooky scene. Such a good twist that he ends up dying anyway, but I don't know, something about that flash of black and white is not frightening to me. It just reminds me of like, we'll be right back, like the end of a 80s TV show. And of course her realizing, you know, why did I survive and he die, and then realizing the horrible... That was a moment that stuck with me in the end of the original film when I watched it the first time. The scene of the mom showing her son and making him make a copy. Ooh, it was so creepy. Oh, man. And of course, in the Ring books, the guy that dies, the professor, is brought back to life in the second book, because what even... like, he tricks the mortician into using science to recreate him by having a Sadako clone give birth to him, and he comes back. So don't worry about the professor. He'll be fine. He gets a Sadako clone. Birth Sadako clone. Death scenes definitely influenced Fatal Frame. Oh yeah, I really honestly think The Ring heavily influenced... I mean, they mention it, obviously, but I think there's something to a lot of the visuals that influenced it. I mean, you talk about, like, creepy Japanese houses. This film has that, because everybody... The environments they use for the most part, especially on the island, are traditional Japanese houses, or at least more traditional. I feel like that this place is pretty traditional looking. I don't know how traditional you can get, like, if that would look traditional to the average Japanese person or not. This is more open and more American, but yeah, she's figuring it out, I think. I feel like the realization at the end is definitely creepier in the American. I don't know why. I just remember it standing out to me so much. I really want to watch that one. We'll have to watch that one next. I think... Well, no, I think the Korean one came out next, technically. So maybe we'll have to watch that one. Maybe Friday next. Mom said I should call it Fright Night and do movies Friday night. Also, whenever she says Ryuji, I just think of the character, the Persona 5. If I remember correctly, there was a cool, like, part of the puzzle, too, in the book where the professor that died first, like, figured out why he was dying first, because he was having a heart attack, and he, like, wrote a clue or something, I think. Oh! Okay, that's creepy. Oh, man. I did not remember that at all. That's creepy. I like that. That's cool. The guy, like, the videotape image just appearing out of nowhere. And I don't think they actually... The book does a cool job of, like, they try to break down and explain what each moment in the film is and why it exists there. It's really cool. And it's very weird. I think there's, like, a scene of her watching her mother brush her hair, and a scene of the not earthquake, the volcano. You know, they're all memories from her life that just, you know, she just imprinted herself. She just copied her memories, you know? And yeah, she's like, I copied it and I showed it to you. Oh man, Parasite Eve novel. I really, really need to read that book and then play that game. I really do. Oh man, that look on her face. I love it. Yeah, oh man. This part is so fucked though. I don't think they show this in the American. I remember the American one. I think it ends with her having her son make the copy, but it doesn't show or say who she shows him to. But in the book, it specifically says that they were driving out to the grandparents to have the grandparents watch it and try and save the family. They arrive in time and they show it to the grandparents, but on the way back home, the wife and the baby still die. Because the book is dealing with the curse evolves. You know, the way that viruses can mutate, the curse mutates so that the cure no longer cures it. And there's this sad bit where, like, the grandparents learn that it didn't save them, and they realize that they're dead now too, and they just kind of, like, have to resign themselves to the fact that they're now going to die and die for nothing. But also, you know, their daughter and grandchild were dead, so, like, what was even the point? I'm going to turn off my... How do I turn that off? I'm no longer. Stop streaming. Okay. I'm going to type this in real quick. Thank you for joining me, everyone in the Discord. That was fun. And thanks for joining me, everyone in the YouTube. That was quite a blast. That was fun. A little different than what I usually do. And the chat box stopped working. Why did you stop working? Anyway, I can see it over here. In the American one, it ends with the... Okay, so she called her dad saying she... So similar idea then. Similar idea. I like that. That's so creepy. So good. What a good concept. You know, I think the movie is not as... Like, comparing it to the book, it's hard for me not to feel like it's a little bit of a letdown just because the book is so different, so unique. At the same time, I can see why that would be very, very hard to adapt to a movie and why they changed it to be more of a traditional ghost story. And, I mean, that ghost story revolutionized horror and like, you can't not give it props for how it influenced global horror. I mean, it was a global phenomenon. I remember how big it was as a kid. Like, everybody knew about The Ring. People that had didn't even know it was a book, never seen a Japanese movie, they knew The Ring. And that's huge. Very, very few things I can think of become that globally popular that fast. Like, the movie came out in 99, and I swear by the early 2000s, everybody was talking about it. Whew, it was a very interesting time. Thanks for watching. I don't know what I'll do with this video. I guess I'll leave it unlisted for now, and then maybe move it to one of the other backup channels. I don't know, in case people want to... I don't know if people would want to listen to this with the movie afterward. But this was fun. We'll definitely have to do it again. YouTube is... it's a good way, I think, to chat through text with a lot of folks and do commentary and stuff, since people have asked me to do, like, movie thoughts and things before, and I feel like Japanese horror is a good one to do, since I actually know things I can talk about. Ring specifically. I need to reread the books so we can talk more about it. Maybe that's what I'll make my homework for next week. Reread the book. thanks for joining me. It was quite fun. I'm hoping to continue the streaming once a week at least. Knock on wood. I am doing much better health-wise. And, ooh, Quite On. We watched that on a stream quite a while ago. So good. One of my favorite films. Maybe we'll watch that sometime, too. That's a long one. I'll try and keep up with at least once a week and keeping people posted on Twitter or Discord now, since Twitter keeps getting worse all the time. And hopefully have another essay video soon. I don't think it'll be next week, but I'm working on things slowly but surely. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you guys next time. I don't really have an outro because my freaking everything broke, but I'll just put it on the end screen, I guess, and see y'all later. Bye.